Hey there, my name is Jessub Flower. I am a screenwriter, educator, and all-around learning, training, and development nut, and welcome to the My Favorite Teacher podcast.
Oh, my favorite teacher makes the rocking world go round.
Yes, that's right. Welcome to the My Favorite Teacher podcast. So good to have you back. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm super excited about our guest that we have today. Our guest today is an animation director. He is a storyboard artist and he's an animator, like one of the old school animators. Best known for his work going back in the day of Randy Cunningham, Ninth Grade Ninja. He's done Spirit Riding Free for Dreamworks. Has worked on KRAPOPOLIS, and of course, little shows such as like Family Guy and The Simpsons. Please welcome Josh Taback to the podcast. Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
I love the background with the Haunted Mansion posters and stuff that you have there.
Yes. Yes, I try to make as much of my house feel like Disneyland as possible.
I've got my little Disneyland map in
Yeah,
my background
as
well.
I saw that earlier.
Actually, we had a chance. We hung out at Disneyland for one time. I
We
almost
did.
forgot about that. That was fun.
We only knew each other for like a couple days or like texting and phone calls and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you were like, "Hey, I'm going to be in Disneyland."
Yeah.
Or at a thing. You were at a convention. And I'm like, "Well, I got to pass. I'll meet you."
It was so fun. We had a blast, and that was when Galaxy's Edge was still fairly new, so we kind of wandered around Galaxy's Edge. It was a
If
blast.
you could spend a day at Disneyland with someone and not like have any tension, you know they're a friend.
Oh, that was cool. Thank you for that. Thanks for saying that. That was a lot of fun. This is where you cut it and say, "Well, there was tension." No, I'm just no, there was not. I think I first remember connecting with you, or even reaching out to you when you were on. I think it was like the On the Page podcast with Pilar Alexander. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That was speaking of teachers, I never took a class from her, but I listened to her podcast a lot, learned a lot, got her book. Wasn't really working on a project enough, a script or anything enough to go through the whole book, and a lot of what she talked about in her book was on her podcast.
Yeah.
So I learned a ton. Can we curse on this?
Yes, absolutely.
So I learned a shit ton about screenwriting from her. And that's one thing I actually wanted to touch upon when we get to it, as far as where your teachers come from and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
I remember listening to that, and you were such a great guest on that podcast as well, and just going, man, this guy, I would love to reach out and just kind of find out. I think at the time you were at Dreamworks. I don't remember what you were working on.
I was on. Well, was
that Spirit?
Yeah, I mean, I spent 6 years at DreamWorks, and the bulk of it was on Spirit Riding Free.
Yeah.
But I came on originally to work on a show called Boo, which was a spin-off of a movie called Boo that got canceled.
Yeah.
And when a whole bunch of things got canceled from their feature lineup, but we were television, so we were probably going to stay around. We were told no television shows are getting cut.
Right.
Except for the ones connected to a feature, which was us.
It happened to be that.
So it would have been a really great show, but then they didn't want to get rid of us. And on their docket next was Spirit Riding Free.
Right.
Which I was a fan of the original movie, just Spirit.
Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. I don't remember how to pronounce.
Yeah, and then also makes me think, wasn't Conan the Cimarron or Conan the Barbarian? Conan of the Cimarron. I don't know. It's the Seminarian. I don't know.
Cimmerian? I don't remember.
Conan the Salamander. But and then they were like, "Do you guys want to work on Spirit? We have Spirit coming up," and we're like, "All right," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." And we didn't really know, and they kind of just, from the gist of it, seemed like they just wanted to get this off the docket, like do their due diligence and like, "All right, we tried Spirit, get it out of here," so people, because it was their own IP,
right?
So they kind of just left us alone. And we did a real bang-up job on the pilot. Absolutely. And it ended up, once we started airing, if I'm not mistaken, we were actually the most viewed show on Netflix for a little bit.
Well, that's awesome. Very cool.
If not children's show, but I'm pretty sure it was
overall
show for a little bit.
Wow, that's great.
And
you were doing... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was telling you, we basically made a show that was an adult show for kids.
Yeah.
That was a combination, I looked at it as a combination of John Ford meets Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was even at the time when that show came out. I mean, a lot of the original viewers that remember the original movie were probably a lot older by the time that show came out, and so we're like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
love the movie. I'm going to watch the show."
And there
So,
was a lot of people too who were like staunch, like horse people
mm,
um, who were such fans of the movie. They were is lamb bashing a word? Is that
yeah, I
right?
think so. Land
Who were
bashing, yeah,
bad mouthing the show before it even
yeah,
aired, saying how can they do this, that, the other,
right.
this looks terrible. And then those same people started turning around once they started watching it.
Oh, you won them over.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
especially one in particular. It went from like, yeah, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be, to like, actually, I really like it. And then, yeah, it's really great though.
That's great. Now,
Yeah,
you were doing what?
I
Were
would
you
say
doing direction for that show, Josh, or were you doing storyboard stuff for that?
I was a director, but
Director, okay.
these days, and depending on the production, and especially that one, like a director basically does everything. So I was
Well,
storyboarding.
that's really my question. If I could tack on that for a second, I don't think a lot of people know what an animation director does. You know, we kind of get the idea of on a set when there's movie and live actors, and you're going, "Hey, move here," you know, and that type of thing. When it's live, when it's animation, obviously there's a whole different way of doing it. So, would you briefly kind of just jump into that and kind of tell us what that looks like?
Yeah, it's really simple. When people say, "Well, how do you even direct animation?" It's the same way you direct live action. You still got to tell people what to do, and if they did something, how they did it or how to correct it. You have to keep tabs on how the show is, the how the episode. I'm sorry, my cat is playing fetch and he won't leave me alone. So
That's all right. We love animal guests on the
I'll bring
podcast.
him on in a minute. Um, you know, you have to go over people's. First, you have to explain what the scene's about. You have to explain what the episode's about, character motivation. You know, because we are drawing. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to lock him out, otherwise I won't be looking at the camera.
Well, while you're doing that, a lot of people just kind of might not know that, you know, as far as like when animators have to send people away to do kind of their shots and everything like that, it sounds like when they come back in, you can then look at those shots and say,
Yeah, so they'll.
hey, we need a little bit more, you know, emotion behind this or a little bit more this type of motion and stuff. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
kind of accurate?
for more technical, well, for the act. Ugh. So there's there's more than two, but the two of the aspects of directing animation is the performances. When you watch The Simpsons or a Disney movie or whatever it may be, you know, let's go to the given answer of what an animated movie that makes everyone cry is Up. Those characters don't just stand there and say like I'm sad.
Right.
It's most of that. Most things are played silently, so we have to either draw that or manipulate the CG puppets or whatever. My end has always been drawing, so you that's a whole other aspect aside from animating. So we have to make the characters emote, act, read, and then the drawings have to be good enough to translate to the animators overseas who take our drawings and match. On Spirit, it was a CG production.
Gotcha.
Match the CG puppets to what we did with from the emotion and all that stuff there. Plus, we have to make sure that what we draw of the backgrounds, like the room behind us, the perspective needs to be correct. And by perspective, if someone's not familiar, meaning like what angle the camera's at, so everything
Right.
is built right. So it's not like this wall's like this and that wall's all janky and everything, nothing matches up. So we have to create
Right.
this environment through our drawings that is then translated, you know, through animation, whether it's there's a number of types of processes to get to the final product. But yes, so we have to direct the acting, we have to direct, and of course the producers sort of do the same thing, and depending on the production, different directors and producers have more control or more authority over that. As
Right.
far as when I was directing, we have to direct the acting, so the artist themselves has to be an actor.
Hmm.
And then as far as storyboarding, um, that is sort of the equivalent of being a director of photography and a
Gotcha.
director, whereas you have to choose what shots you use in order to tell this story.
Right.
Live action, traditionally, on a basic set, or whatever you want to call it, production. I think I got too much sun. Uh, um, you do what's called traditional coverage, where you do a wide shot, very wide, to say this is where the people are. Then you go closer to say this is what the room is and kind of where they're situated, and you kind of have this shot you could always cut back to of them at a distance, and then you have medium shots of them together. You get close-ups or over the shoulders, extreme close-ups, and you get you shoot the thing either with multiple cameras or multiple times in different camera positions. Then the editor gets that film, or whatever they call it nowadays,
Right.
and puts together a cut using those shots. They choose the footage to tell the story. Well, when you're storyboarding for animation, you have to do the editing first.
That makes sense.
You don't find your cut in your footage. You have to create the footage from step one. So you have to make these decisions ahead of time.
Well, and it seems like a storyboard artist would not only have to have that kind of visual eye, like you said, like a cinematographer, but also the ability to be able to see what's going to work best for the story. Because, I mean, if you think about it, traditional coverage, like what you're saying, you're limited fairly to where the camera can be and what it can physically do.
Right.
I mean, with animation, you could put the camera anywhere you want, which may or may not help or hurt a production if you don't do it right, it sounds like.
Well, it depends also on the type of production. What I had to learn the hard way when I started on Spirit Riding Free, that was my first CG, computer generated show, where
it was okay.
Those sets are built, and they have a limitation to where you could put the camera. Now you can put a camera anywhere, but like if you're drawing it, you can basically cheat the walls, this, that, the other. You could do any sort of thing you want, extreme perspective, but when it's CG, the set is built. The character is built.
Locked in.
In fact, I had a scene once where I did this animation where someone's getting soup from a big cauldron with a ladle, sipping it like that. But we got towards the end of our part of the process, and there was no budget. We never made a ladle. Every prop needs to be made, and it's called an asset, and every asset has a certain number of points, which is worth a certain dollar amount in the budget.
Right.
So we had no budget for a ladle. So someone said to me, can it just be a big spoon? I'm like, well, it's got to be a really big spoon. And it's like, well, we don't have a really big spoon. Well, it needs to be a really big spoon. Can't you just size it up? Well, if we size it up, then the texture it doesn't work.
Okay.
So it's like, well, why can't can you just make it? I'm like, well, first of all, I have to change the drawings because you don't drink from a spoon the same. So they figured out how to make the spoon big enough that it would make sense for the size of the cauldron. But then I had to change the drawings, because if we send them drawings where her hand's up here and she's sitting on the ladle, so whereas I can just draw a ladle, I can just draw a fork, I can just draw this, I can just draw that.
Right.
So that was some, we need.
That is fascinating.
These two characters, they're the same model, and we would use the same model and change the color, so they would pretend they're different people.
Right.
But at one point, I'm like, we're not fooling anybody with this, but they're in the same scene. Like, just because she's got blonde hair and she's got brown hair, it looks weird. And I couldn't say, just make her nose longer, just draw it like this. That wasn't an option because it was already built. So, and also moving furniture around, I always had to go into the animation director's office and be like, hey, is this chair nailed down to the floor? Can I move it? Can we take this wall out so I can put the camera here?
Right.
So there were a lot of limitations, but, it made me a better filmmaker. It made me a better storyboard artist. It made me a better director, because I had to consider these things that before I just could play God and change whatever I wanted.
Sure. Oh, Josh, literally, this subject is so fascinating, and there's so much to it. Like, I feel like we could make this a 4-hour podcast, but I want to respect your time and everything like that. So I want to transition to, with all the stuff that you did, right, and the stuff that you're doing now, is this all stuff that you went to school for, or when you were kind of in your school age, did you know that you wanted to do this, or kind of tell me a little bit about Josh as a younger student?
Yeah. Do you want to pick an age?
No, you go right ahead. Whatever you feel comfortable.
All right.
with.
Yeah. Well, I was 13, and I was always drawing. And in second grade, Mrs. McIntosh got mad at me because I was drawing in class. She took my drawing and never gave it back to this day. But Yes, I remember that. But oh, I was 13, and it was my last year of Hebrew school, and I hated Hebrew school.
Okay.
And I got picked on, and it was extra school. But it was the last year of Hebrew school. For those who aren't familiar, you just learn what's called your Haftorah, which is your prayers and stuff for the your bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah.
Right.
And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go to another year of school. It's Hebrew school. I had bad stage fright to get up in front of a temple full of people and sing in Hebrew.
Right. All memorized and everything, right?
Yeah, but still. And then my mom said, well, you're not going to do nothing. So if you're either going to do that or you're going to take art classes at the local, what was it's still called the Joe Kubert Cartooning College for cartooning and graphic art or whatever. It's a comic book college. And it was in my...
Where's this? Sorry, Josh, to cut in.
It was in Dover, New Jersey. I lived in
Dover, New Jersey.
Rockaway, and a bordering town was Dover. And actually, I've worked with some people who went there for college. So she said, you're going to get your, have your bar mitzvah, or you're going to take art classes. I'm like, I don't want to do either. But so she said, well, why don't we ask JC Shapiro, my best friend at the time. If JC goes with you, will you go? My mom loved JC. And then, so I was like, yeah, I'll go. And then ended up going. It was a Saturday morning class in this trailer outside what was this old mansion, which was the dorms for the school.
Wow.
And like in the winter, there was a space heater in the middle of the trailer. We all were wearing our coats. And that was like my first formal like drawing education, more than like your regular art class. And I stayed in it for like I stayed in it for a few years. I'd have to think about how old I was when different things happened. And JC left after a few months. But but then as I got older, I got more into acting. And long story short, jump ahead, I was going to go to college for theater. I was going to go to school for acting. But I didn't want to stop drawing. So then I decided to go for illustration or something. Then I found out in my freshman education that animation is acting and drawing. And once I started doing it, I was like, oh, what is this? And I remember my first assignment, I had to like do a character, and I drew the drawings and I flipped it, and the thing was alive in front of me, looking back at me. And I'm like, like Jaws, push, pull, zoom in on me. Like, what is happening?
Oh, that's
And then that was just like, I came home to my my roommate, who's a film student. I'm like, I'm not doing illustration. I'm going for animation. He's like, really? Awesome. Why? And then I explained, and it was basically what I was born to do, and it was no going back from there. So I got a degree in what I call animation film, but on my diploma it says film/animation.
Interesting, yeah.
But like, as far as senior year, we all had the same classes, except junior and senior year. I think both, if not just senior. They had their main film class while we had our main animation class.
I gotcha.
Wow. So yeah,
that is fascinating. And I know that there's probably not that same track anymore for people that want to do animation. So that may be.
No, I mean there's a lot of schools that teach animation, especially now, but it's a different process. Some of it is still traditional, but
they still do 2D animation stuff for a lot of things.
But yeah, like our show KRAPOPOLIS that I'm on, we do 2D. It was at first hand drawn, animated, like cleaned up and animated, but they've gone to 2D puppetry, which is like a hybrid of 2D CG.
Okay.
They take drawings, they build a skeleton,
a model, a skeleton, yeah.
Yeah, and you can manipulate the drawings, and that's a lot of the time how they animate. But it is more limited than drawing, so
yeah,
a lot of the animation comes back watered down.
Okay.
Or like if you take, let's say you take real care to draw a hand a certain way, and it looks great. If they don't have that asset a certain way, they have to either have someone draw it to match yours, or just use what they have.
It's the ladle problem all over again.
Right. But but also there's a lot of CG shows now, as you can probably tell. But
yeah,
most shows are hand drawn, storyboarded.
Yeah,
storyboards are now storyboarding isn't what originally was intended. Storyboarding now is storyboarding, character layout, key animation, background layout.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, like I said. So one other thing I'm forgetting. So it's 4 or 5 jobs that have been consolidated over the years into one for the same paycheck, less time and less people. So that's, it's difficult. Whereas
That sounds difficult. Now, it sounds like from those stories that you told, it sounds like Mrs. McIntosh was probably not the subject of our podcast today, if she still hasn't given back that. So I'm going to ask you, Josh Taback, in your school time, did you have a favorite teacher and why? Who were they?
Since you asked me to do this, I've been thinking, and there's only one that I would say was the most influential. But before I get to him, I'll say, no, I didn't have a favorite teacher because it sounds silly, but it takes a village.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were many people who had this teacher, that teacher. I listened to some of your episodes already.
Thank you.
But I got a little bit from a lot of people, which I'll name some in a moment.
I like it.
Over the years, whether it be a grade school teacher, a college teacher, professor, someone I took extracurricular classes with, people I worked with. Like the biggest education I got overall, I would say, was what we call institutional knowledge, where an institution such as a studio, the veterans teach the newer people, the green people,
Absolutely.
and we basically teach each other, train ourselves so they become competent veterans and then teach the next batch.
Makes perfect sense.
That's kind of gone by the wayside. And there's barely any of that anymore for a number of reasons, which I get into if this was more of an animation podcast rather than a teaching podcast. But that is essential to any art, especially artistic, or even what we call normie company, where people got to teach other people what to do, and that doesn't seem to be a priority anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway. So I'd say the most influential teacher I had was my drama teacher and English teacher in high school, Frank Walsh.
Frank Walsh.
And he was the one that really kind of encouraged me with my acting and told me I had something that most people don't, and that it was something that I could pursue it would be a worthy pursuit if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And it just sort of opened my world when I started being in the plays. It came out of my shell.
Right.
And he put his all into the productions. It was a culture. He basically was. Oh, is that where the term cult comes from? I never even.
It could very well be.
But he nurtured this really great culture for just more than a few years, because I know it continued on after we left, but I kind of grew up with a certain group of cronies, friends, that was sort of lightning in a bottle. We were all super creative and motivated and quite talented. Like, there's these friends that I had who didn't continue in the business really, but if they did, and they were geniuses. And, it lifted me up. But we were shooting like Monty Python type skits with a video camera since I was 16. And so we were doing all that. But yeah, so Frank Walsh, he was a good man. He had us over. He lived in a big mansion in somewhat rural New Jersey. He'd have Christmas parties and stuff, and
really,
we had a musical and a play every year, and it was just this great atmosphere that he created, and I think it kind of cemented a big part of who I am. I was gonna say who I was, but who I am. My art teacher in high school her name was Denise Vanderhoff, Miss Van, and she helped curate a lot of people into art school. I was more heavily involved in the plays and stuff, but I was always the one everyone would want me to draw something for them and stuff, and so she really was essential in helping me get my portfolio together to go to school and stuff like that. In college, my main teachers were Lowell Boston for character animation and Sheila Sofian, who is now at USC. Um, uh, they really helped us be, like, I guess, mature. Sheila especially. No, Lowell taught us the insides and the in and outs, which if you know animation, it's kind of a pun. The ins and outs of animating, but Sheila really helped us mature as students and like artists in the world, like what you're doing with yourself. We had other film teachers and stuff, but I wasn't so involved with that department in that way, and they were very avant-garde, so I didn't really connect.
Okay.
And then I'll throw you if you want to ask another question. But then once I graduated and I came out here, I had an internship that I got with Sheila's help at Film Roman, where and so I came out here for that summer and ended up staying. And my mentor at the time, his name was Jim Schumann. Oh God, he's right here.
Oh, there he is.
This was from his birthday party. His wife made.
Yeah.
I don't just have cut out heads of my teachers.
I was going to say, do we have a Frank Walsh one somewhere?
Make sure you draw it this way. So my girlfriend said, like, I was in the kitchen for the longest, and she said, can you please put that somewhere else?
Yeah, he's creeping me out.
So he was my mentor. He's only a few years older than me, but we've been friends since 1994. Like, we're really close, and but funnily enough, after that internship, we didn't officially work for each other until Spirit Riding Free. He was my executive producer on Spirit Riding Free. But he was essential in teaching me people on The Simpsons. I remember this fellow who's passed away now, Chris Muller. He taught me something about drawing and animating. Lance Kramer, Tim Bailey, like so many. Like, we just taught each other. And then once you get to a certain level, you start discovering things about drawing. You start teaching yourself.
Right.
So I became very into the how-to of it. So then I got better, and I started training people because I became one of the veterans, and so newer people came in, and I trained a lot of the people on The Simpsons. And every now and then, like, someone will thank me, hey, I drew this the other day, and you were the first one to show me that.
Wow.
So I've kind of I was always very big on training. I'm very methodical and analytical, more so than intuitive. But I can bounce into that. It's weird. I got a real left brain right thing going on. So I was just very into helping people and being helped, and and imparting knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's always been my thing.
It closes that circle, doesn't it, Josh? Because I mean, as you kind of have people teach you and mentor you and show you specific things. Yeah. The best way to learn, honestly, is to continue that, and then it just comes full circle, and you begin to kind of pass that circle of life kind of thing. Yeah. So.
I've mentored a handful of people just one-on-one over Zoom and in person here and there, and I'm still doing it now, just one person at the moment. And my plan in the next number of years, hopefully sooner than later, is to go into teaching at a university level full-time.
That's amazing.
So I just have
I'll tell you what, then in future, if I'm still doing the podcast at that point, I'll bet you I'll interview some, up and coming rising star, and they'll say, my favorite teacher was Josh Taback. Josh, thank you so much, man.
A real good teacher, but yeah, he wouldn't shut up.
Hey, some of my best teachers wouldn't either. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. I think a lot of people can learn from that. I think a lot of teachers out there that might be hearing this podcast would just say it does take a village. It does take a little bit. And if anybody can hang in those trenches and make sure that they at least give their part to it, you can create just some really good stuff for the future. At this point, Josh, just because I also want to respect your time, I know you have a 2:00 or, a thing in about 8 minutes or so. What is your, do you have any plugs? Like is there anything going on? Like even like KRAPOPOLIS is currently going, where can we see that?
Okay, that's on Hulu. It's also on Fox. I don't have live television anymore, so I don't exactly
A lot
know
of
where
people
to
don't.
watch what. But it's on Hulu at the moment. You can always go back and watch The Simpsons. I was on that till season 22, I think, or something.
Awesome.
Spirit Riding Free, go back to Netflix. Watch Spirit Riding Free. Go watch Randy Cunningham, Ninth Grade Ninja on Disney Plus.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about
Yeah,
it. It's
no, it
it's
was
it's a
like,
great show. It's one that you had a big part of.
yeah.
But yeah, and then how
Um,
about social medias, Josh? Do you want anybody to get a hold of you
yeah,
on social medias?
if you go to joshuataback.com, that is Taback. But I think my link sometimes is delayed. It's a blog spot that I haven't touched, in a while, or when I do touch it, I just kind of update it. So I think Blogspot's getting to the point where it buffers a lot. So a little
They're starting to
patient.
lose their support
Maybe
for it.
Josh Taback home.blogspot.home, or I don't know. If you search my name, you should be able to find
You'll
me.
find you.
Yeah, yeah. And
Excellent.
so my portfolio, I have an old blog that I haven't touched in a while, but my videos are up there and stuff like that.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much again. I'm going to talk first of all to our viewers. Thank you so much again for joining us for this podcast. Thanks for watching on YouTube and subscribing on YouTube. And then if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or any of those, if you would drop us a review in the Apple podcast, it really does help us get seen. But thanks so much for watching us. And thanks again to you, Josh, for being an incredible guest. And I look forward to catching up with you again later.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Josh. Bye, everybody. Thanks. Be good to somebody out there, and we'll see you next time.